Pardon me, this has been a rough morning, but we're going to get through it just fine. Your handout. There's a handout on a yellow sheet. And I talk about restoring documents on the, it's 2 pages, okay? And generally, you can apply these techniques also to photographs. And a lot of us have, when it comes to our family archives, we have some documents, we also have some photos. And you have to treat them a little differently the way you approach it, but when we scan them in and when we work on them, we follow the same principles. Okay, so don't let the title, Restoring Documents with a Computer, throw you off. Because we have so many people at various different levels of understanding and experience, I don't want to go through the handout step by step because, you know, it's just not necessary. What I would like to do is touch on various aspects that are on the handout with real examples, which is photos that you all brought. So we'll start with a more simple approach, and that would be a photograph. And I had we had someone that had I think a photo with a tear in it, and we were talking about, I think it was that yours? Yeah, so why don't you bring that down, and let's just deal with this one first. And then did you fill out that little sheet?
Yes.
Okay, great. Why don't you hand that to me? And get this started here. Now, you know you have some gloves. So it's a real good idea, thank you. It's a real good idea to use these gloves every time you're handling these photos, because the oil from your hands, no matter how well you wash them, okay, will get on the print. And sometimes it's hard to wash it off the print or clean it off the print. So in this case, we have a photograph that has it's not even really a glossy finish, so it'll definitely love to absorb the oils or any other liquids that might get on the surface. So we really want to handle this carefully. If you handle it with your bare hand, hold it at the sides. Okay, like so. All right, but if you really want to hold it right, you don't want to bend it, because sometimes if you hold it at the sides, you could bend it in. Use the glove. We have a flatbed scanner right here. This can be the most, how can you say, troublesome part of your restoration process or your color correcting process. And that is, if you go on the cheap with your scanner, you want to save a couple bucks, it's not going to help you out, because you need, once you scan it in, the quality of what you're putting into the computer has to be the best quality. And the best quality means it captures all the details that are inside the dark areas, known as the shadows, and it will capture all the details in the lighter areas called the highlights. And of course the midtones are in between, the grayish areas or the flesh tone areas. But generally, a good scanner will give you good detail in those extremes. Now, what do I recommend for that? I think Epson right now, as of 2009, makes the best, or the best quality at the best price. And I'll tell you, even at the expensive, the higher end Epsons, they're still good. This is what you would call a low to medium end, and this is now an obsolete version. It's known as the V350. I think they're at a 450 or something else. If you get the most expensive flatbed scanners, and Epson does make them for a couple thousand, I believe, you can take the glass off. And what's nice about taking the glass off is you can clean the underside of the glass. See, we always do well cleaning the surface of the glass. You know, we do well doing that. And by the way, you should spray a cloth, then wipe. Don't spray direct. Because then some of the cleaning agent can get stuck on the edges, and you'll be dealing with smudges for years to come. So if you can take that glass out, you can clean the underside. And why would you want to clean the underside? Anybody want to take a shot at that? Nope. Well, yeah, there would be some dust on the underside. But the plastic, which most of these things are made of, is a petroleum product, you know? And it exhibits, it releases gases. It corrodes, it breaks down. I mean, eventually plastic does break down. It takes a couple thousand years, but eventually it completely breaks down. And what happens is those gases build up on the glass. And sometimes you'll notice, you know, weird smudges underneath. And you're like, keep trying to clean and the smudge is still there. So let's put this on. We're going to put this.
Do you use just regular Windex foam wrap?
Yeah, Windex, good. Use Windex brand. And the reason why I say that is because it's a higher quality and it won't smudge. If you try to go cheap on your window cleaner, your glass cleaner, it won't be very neat, okay? So if there's any questions while I'm working, I really would like you to ask me. Just make sure you raise your hand so that I can get you and everything is neat and orderly. Okay, the lid is down. We have it clean. And here we go. We have some settings. Talk a little bit about these settings here. This is big enough. Can you all in the back see these numbers on the settings? Okay. When I'm working, when I'm scanning, I always like to do what's called, with Epson, it's called professional mode. Now if you have an HP, they may call it expert mode or advanced mode. The reason why, because you have full control over how it's scanning. If you have automatic settings, you don't know necessarily what it's doing to scan in your picture. It's just going to give you what the manufacturer says is a good range or the software developer would say is a good range. I'm going to tell you what I think, what I recommend are good settings for scanning. Now for this is called a reflective. This is not film, this is a print. That's pretty, don't need to explain that. Color. I always scan in color, even though it's a black and white photograph. Now you know you can scan in what's called grayscale, but I say color. Does anybody know why I say scan in color? Yes, ma'am, in the back. Yes.
Different shades of black and white. Can you fix it up though?
You're warm, but you're in the right direction. Not precise though. Go ahead.
Number of pixels, the resolution, depth.
You're talking two different things, but you're getting around it, you know.
4-bit
You're
versus 8-bit or 16-bit.
You're in the solar system. Okay. Here's and both of you are right in the area. Your scanner is gonna record 3 channels of information: red, green, and blue. Each one has 8 bits, or you could say levels of detail, we could say, okay? Now if you scan it in grayscale, that's 1 channel of information. So if I'm doing red, green, and blue, and each one is 8, 8 times 3 is 24, as opposed to 8 with just grayscale, you see 24 is greater than 8, more is better. Well, still got to understand why. Because the detail in some of these grayscale or these black and white pictures shows up differently in a red channel than it would in a green channel. It would show up differently in a blue channel than it would in a red. So by getting all 3, you start out with the most information. You may not use it, you may not manipulate it, but you want to start out with the best. Any questions on what I just said? it.